I think it's time I do a 1+ year review of this little carry-on 5x8 trailer that I've had. I'm the second owner of it. All I do is tow it around behind my Polaris Ranger, doing cleanup around my property. It's been a very good, useful tool to have. Very lightweight because we can see here it has this mesh floor. And I have a couple pieces of partial sheets of plywood down there to give me a little bit more rigidity in the floor if I want to carry some weight. Only thing that I carry in it that would be of any significant weight is some firewood. A lot of this firewood has been moved around a few times. Some of it I hauled in this little trailer. So I have a cheap it's a 7x9 tarp laid down over the top of those pieces of plywood. And then I have some little cheap clamps that I picked up from Harbor Freight to hold the tarp in place. So this is just a piece of angle iron as far as the top rail goes. This is a little bit different than some of the ones that I've seen for sale at Lowe's. This is called the 5x8G Gen, also called the Next Gen version. But the bottom rail is square tube rather than angle iron. The ones that I've seen at Lowe's, because I almost bought one at Lowe's, they're in a piece of angle iron, and then this piece of expanded mesh steel is inset down into the angle iron. So our angle iron is vertical and then horizontal across the bottom, and then this is set down in at the bottom lip of that piece of angle iron. And then on the side we have a cheesy little marker light on that model of trailer that sticks out from the side and gets broken all the time. This one, it's a 3/4 inch grommet mount lamp that is embedded into the square tube. So I'll have a link below to some of those grommet mount style lights. You can get those in red or amber. I've had those on a lot of different trailers, and I've upgraded a few trailers with those. Back here we have our tail lights. License plate mount goes under the tail light there. I don't have a license plate on this because when I transferred the title, I told the Department of Licensing agent that I did not want a plate for it, and I said the reason for that is because I don't take it off of my property, and that is a true statement. I never have taken it off the property. I just use it around the house to drag around behind my Ranger. Now at some point I may outfit this to haul a motorcycle by putting a little bolt-on wheel chock right up here in the center, and then I'll go ahead and get it plated. The tongue is kind of goofy. It's actually a bolt-on tongue back there, and they only do that just for the purpose of shipping them. They unbolt the tongue and then set the tongue in the bed of the trailer. It just makes for a smaller package for shipping purposes. The ramp will fold down into the trailer for less wind resistance when towing it empty, so that's a good thing. If I ever get around to deciding I want to haul a motorcycle with this, I will use some sort of a piece of plywood so I don't depress that section of angle iron or expanded steel in the middle. Same thing in the bed of the trailer. I'll put something down to support the weight and spread the load rather than have the tires being a drastic point of contact with all the weight situated in one spot, which will expand or stretch or stress that expanded metal and cause it to depress. So let's talk about some of the things that I dislike about it. One, let's pull back this tarp. The back side of the fender, where it's sitting up against the side rail, that is not enclosed. So why that matters to me, or why that can be a concern to some users, depending on what you use the trailer for, is I haul yard waste in this. That's actually primarily what I use it for. That's partly why I have this tarp in here, is to keep that yard waste and pine needles and debris from falling out or rubbing up against that tire. If I had a big load of branches, that stuff would be susceptible to rubbing the tire. And if it's just pine needles, then we have all that stuff falling out as I'm dragging the trailer around, because the load tends to settle as I'm driving this thing around, dragging it around behind my Polaris Ranger. I wish that it had more vertical supports in this ramp, specifically one in the center. The person I bought this from, I'm the second owner, used it to haul golf carts on. And I don't know that they used it very much, but right in the center, it's hard to see from the camera angle, but this center section right in this area, it is depressed a little bit. And that would definitely become a problem if I was going to haul a motorcycle in this trailer, which I will eventually do at some point. When I decide to haul a motorcycle in this trailer, I will put something down on that ramp so that the weight of the motorcycle doesn't depress and deform that expanded mesh steel anymore. Same thing with the bed. That's another aspect of the bed that I dislike, is the fact that it's this expanded mesh. What else do I dislike about it? I don't like these taillights because they're exposed. I have not broken any of them yet, or either one of them, fortunately. I tend to back around places with my Ranger hooked up to this, and I try to keep a close eye on those and make sure I don't back into anything. The ramp is removable. I am not terribly impressed with the design of the latches here on the ramp. That one's kind of hard to see because of this low sun angle in the sky. But there's this little spot right there. There's a detent on it, and there's a roll pin right there on the spring. So we pull this back, rotate it so that the roll pin engages on that little keeper right there. But you can see the pin still extends through the ramp some, and there is no side-to-side play in this ramp. Very, very little, maybe less than a 1/16 of an inch. So when I lower this, I have to open the other pin first and then come over here and hold this one back while I lower the ramp. This one, the previous owner kind of mangled this and got it bent up a little bit. So that actually works out to my benefit. But over here you can see there's probably about 3/16 of an inch or so, a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch of gap, but you can see this is all bent to heck. But anyway, that's one thing I don't like about it, is the arrangement of the keepers for the ramp and the trick to get it to drop down for me. It's not too big of a deal because I rarely ever lower the ramp. I actually use the ramp in the up position and use that as my backstop to make a big pile of branches up here. You know what? I think that probably wraps up my dislikes. I thought I had more. So let's talk about some things that I really like about it. One thing I like is the bigger tires and wheels. These are 12-inch. A lot of little trailers have little donut style tires that are like 8-inch and really low load rating, and they're prone to blowing out. A lot of trailer manufacturers have gone away from that little bitty wheel. That trailer or that style wheel was really common on the little bolt together Harbor Freight trailers. What else do I like? I like this one because we have our marker light on the side is recessed into the framework. The trailers that Lowe's sells, at least all the ones I've seen, the marker light is mounted up here on the front, and it's surface mounted, and it's cheap plastic. And I would say about 1 out of every 3 trailers that I have looked at prior to buying this one, that marker light is broke due to mishandling when the trailer was loaded or unloaded from the truck that they were shipped to Lowe's on. It's really common that those get broke. And that particular design that Lowe's has, it's angle iron, where this one is square tube frame. So that's another thing I like. Instead of being an angle iron, this is square tube. So this is one piece of tube right here. Another thing I like is this little grab handle. I can pick this thing up and just wheel it all over the place. You can see over there in the distance my Polaris Ranger. I could easily drag this trailer over there and hook it up to my Ranger. I also like, in some regards anyway, the mesh deck because it makes the trailer a lot lighter weight. And the reason that's a concern is due to how I use this trailer, which is for hauling yard waste behind my UTV, my Polaris Ranger that I just pointed out. I can tow this thing all around my property like it's not even there. The Ranger doesn't even phase it. If I were to buy this trailer or a trailer like this again, I may consider a 4x8. When I bought this trailer, I actually thought it was a 4x8 because that's what the seller listed it as, but it's a 5x8. And I guess the 5x8's fine. It's just a little bit wider than the width of the Ranger, so I just have to be careful when I'm going through tight spots on my property between trees and whatnot. Another thing I like is this ramp. You can undo those pins that hold the ramp vertical and you can fold that down flat into the bed. So if you're towing this thing empty for a significant distance, that would reduce your wind resistance. Another thing I like about it is that these side rails, they are not welded in place. They are bolted in place. So back here behind this piece of angle iron, there's a bolt and a nut. Just undo that hardware on each of those vertical uprights and your side rail and front rail comes off so that you could turn this into a flatbed. So I think that about wraps up my 1 year review and my likes and dislikes on this trailer. So thanks for watching.